Chapter 17. Outside, the wind whistled and moaned. It rattled against the outer wall of the jail like a living thing. With his eyes closed, Chengli sat on the dirt floor of his cell and listened to it wail. You pulled me into the desert, old demon wind, and now you've pushed me into jail. What do you want? He wondered. He reached into the pouch at his side and felt the jade. Maybe, he thought, I'll never find the other half of this. Maybe Father took it with him into the spirit world. In the darkness, Chengli smelled the fragrant breeze of the mountain meadow, and in the meadow he saw Whitebeard. The old grandfather had often talked of the Kazga's trained eagles, and how, when the birds got too old or tired to hunt, their owners set them free. Could it be that when the bandits took his father's life, they had set his spirit free? Thinking such thoughts, he sat and waited. When the trial came, it came swiftly. The tribunal had been prepared for the trial with torches lit by the main gate, announcing to all that a life and death decision was about to begin. Citizens filed into the room and stood in a respectful silence. Guards walked Chengli into the courtroom and shoved him to his knees in front of the raised platform. Around the room and out in the open yard, he saw the crowd of townspeople who had come to listen. They stood eagerly waiting to criticize or cheer the decision of the judge. In the front row stood, he blinked, Master Fong. Chengli jumped up. The guard shoved him back down, nearly cracking his skull on the hard floor. Chengli grinned in spite of his pain. Master had left the safety of his hiding place and come to attend the trial. Chengli felt stronger and more hopeful just at the sight of him. The judge entered, clad in his full ceremonial robe and shimmering blue silk, with a black gauze cap covering his hair. He sat behind a high bench on the raised platform and looked around the crowded hall. He spoke to the crowd. My job, he said, is to establish the facts and hand out punishment. Fourth brother here on the right has accused the boy on my left, family name Chow, personal name of Chengli, of stealing imperial property, namely, a royal princess. Chow Chengli tells me that he, instead, rescued this very princess. The judge cleared his throat and continued. It is one person's word against the other, and neither can produce a witness to speak on their behalf. The punishment for tampering with imperial property, he stopped and looked at Chengli, is death by hanging. The crowd inhaled as one. Murmurs shivered around the room like the buzz of many mosquitoes. Chengli gasped for breath to keep from fainting. Suddenly a voice cut through the mumbling like a slash of a sword. A voice Chengli recognized. The judge called the voice, We come to see the judge. And from the back of the room came Uncle Dao, striding directly up to the judge without a quiver of fear in his body. In his arms he carried the princess. Silence and order! Judge Yin hit the gavel hard on the table. We cannot be silent. Please, O honorable one, I bring a witness, Uncle Dao called out. The crowd murmured as they watched Uncle Dao, who moved in the front and waved for the judge to address him. He brings a witness, whispered a woman's voice. Let the witness be heard, called out a man's voice. The judge nodded his head. Who is this? He asked Uncle Dao. She is the very royal Princess Mei Ling, around whom this case revolves, answered Uncle Dao. She alone can tell you what really happened. Uncle Dao carried Mei Ling forward and held her up to the judge. In a soft, barely audible voice, she told her story to the judge, and the judge repeated it to the crowd. While she spoke, everyone looked back and forth from Chengli to fourth brother. There was total silence, so that her words would not be lost. Uncle Dao returned to his place and set Mei Ling down. Finally the judge spoke. This is indeed a sad case, and it grows more so. Our law dictates that if one person accuses another and the accusation is found to be false, he stopped and looked directly at fourth brother. The two must change places. The accused must go free, and the false accuser must suffer the planned punishment. Uncle Tao looked quickly from fourth brother to the judge. But, Your Eminence, he whispered, the boy is young. Is there not some other answer? The judge sat silently behind his lacquered table, tugging thoughtfully at his beard. He looked at the crowd. He looked at Chengli. He looked down at his own hands, turning them over and back as if they held some special message. Then he spoke. In deciding a case of life or death, I must think carefully. I must use my own knowledge, and I must use knowledge that comes to me from the spirits. It is important that the affairs of earth be in harmony with the will of heaven. The people murmured approval. The judge stood up. As magistrate, I base my decision on the words of the princess and, he nodded to the crowd, on the advice of the spirits. The people grinned. Death is too strong for a young man with potential, said the judge. But his crime of lying nearly destroyed an innocent human being. Here's my decision. The crowd waited. Chao Chengli, you may go free. The crowd buzzed with approval. Fourth brother, I give you 2 orders. 1. You will stay with the caravan and return to Middle Kingdom. 2. You will take charge of all finances for the caravan and be responsible for all sales. They will be correct. The judge called Master Fong to come forward. Master Fong, this young man must serve you faithfully as long as he lives. The crowd of villagers grew restless at this turn of events. The liar deserves his punishment, they called out. He was willing to destroy the younger boy, said another. He deserves to die. But the judge held up his hand and silenced them. Master Fong shook his head in confusion. Fourth brother is a good worker, and he knows his job. He is worth saving, but, Master Fong twisted his hands nervously, how can I trust him after what he has done? Because, the judge said, I now speak to him. Fourth brother, come before me. Fourth brother knelt in front of the judge's lacquered table and knocked his head solidly on the floor several times. Chengli saw how he trembled. Listen carefully, said the judge. You have no choice if you wish to stay alive. Be faithful, learn the finances of the caravan, and keep strict order. Fail, and be hanged. The people stood in stunned silence as the announcement sank in. Then slowly, the crowd of onlookers made room for Uncle Tao, who went forward to retrieve fourth brother. Master Feng, moving to the side of Chengli, stopped at the sound of the magistrate's voice. Master Feng, Chao Chengli, follow me to my private room. Glancing at each other in confusion, Chengli and his master obeyed. Once behind the closed door, the judge motioned them both up from kneeling and pointed them to chairs. The terror of this trial is now over, he said. The princess has provided the rightful ending, and your spirits may be in peace. Do not tremble, he said, glancing at the worried expressions of both waiting faces. I have something of interest to tell Chengli, and I think you, Master Feng, should be aware of it as well. Chengli waited, wondering what would follow. The judge continued, This boy has shown me a piece of broken jade left to him by his father. I know the full story of this jade. Inspector Chow had made several trips to the southern oasis of Khotan famous for its valuable jade of fresh greens and whites, and he collected a number of lovely pieces. All are valuable. Some are worth an entire year's salary. One day he came to me saying that he had been ordered to move against a band of smugglers, and he feared for his life. He handed me his box of jade pieces, asking that it would be returned to him if he succeeded, or given to his wife and infant son if he failed. When I asked him how I would recognize his wife or son, he broke a piece in half. Here, he said, I will give half to you and half to my wife. With it, she can claim the rest. The judge stopped and watched Chengli. So what old cook told me is true, said Chengli in wonder. Mother knew she was dying, gave the broken jade to the cook, and old cook gave it to me. But now, if you give it to me, what will I do with it? I don't really want it. I can't keep it safe on the caravan, and I don't know what to do with it. Chengli looked imploringly at the judge. Can you read and write? Asked the judge. No, Your Honor. I've always been a servant or a camel driver. Such learning is not for servants. Ah, said the judge, but as you say, you are Inspector Chow's son. To become an inspector, your father learned the thousands of Chinese writing characters and studied the writings of the ancient wise teacher Confucius. With that knowledge, he took and passed the government exam and rose to the rank of inspector. He had lived, surely he would have risen higher. The judge paused, watching Chengli. And had he lived, his son would have had a teacher to learn and to rise as did his father. But I am too old to begin learning, said Chengli, and there's no need for a scholar on the caravan. This thought of learning from books had never entered Chengli's mind. He wasn't at all sure that he'd like to spend all day inside studying. Indeed, since you first appeared before me, I've been pondering that, said the judge, and that is why I ask Master Fang to join us. I suggest, and I think your father would have agreed, that the jade be used to pay for your schooling. Master Fang, if you are willing, I will give the box of jade into your safekeeping. The judge took from his drawer a box, opened it, and spread the pieces of pale green and white jade across the table. You, Chengli, the judge continued, will stay with the caravan until it returns to Chang'an, the home of many great scholars and teachers. Once there, your master will use his knowledge and the local people to locate a scholar who agrees both to provide you with room and board and mentor you until you pass the government exam. The jade will be used to pay your teacher. Chengli gasped. He didn't think he wanted to do what the judge suggested, for learning to read and write meant learning many thousands of complicated written characters before he could even begin to study the books of the great teacher Confucius, on which the entire exam was based. But Master Fang looked delighted. The judge returned the jade pieces to the box. He handed the box to Master Fang and turned again to Chengli. The idea of learning is new to you and worries you. I can tell by your face. But think about it. You have many months before you get back to Chang'an, and by then you may come to like the idea. Certainly, the spirit of your father will be delighted. The judge chuckled at the thought. Now, he continued, let me tell you more about the broken piece. Your piece has on it the word breeze. My half, the one that completes the circle, says mountain. I recall that Inspector Chow once told me that if he held the jade disc in his hand, the winds of the hot desert became as refreshing as the soft mountain breeze. I myself never felt it. With that, he waved his hand to dismiss them both, but stopped. Chow Chengli, said the judge. You are indeed your father's son. At your young age, you have already demonstrated his honesty and his courage. So when you have succeeded and passed the government exams, as I know you will, come back here to Kashgar. I will want to congratulate you and perhaps even help you get a good position. For the next few days, everyone hovered close to Master Fang's caravan and worked at recovering from the trial. Fourth brother stayed out of sight. Chengli began again his care of the animals and didn't have time to fret about the jade and the responsibility it brought. Mei Ling spent more and more time remembering how to be a princess. From her cart, she took the royal dresses and hung them out in the air in the sunlight. When the work was done, she went to join Chengli, putting out the food for the donkeys. What will you do now? She asked him. He looked up, his voice a question. I've changed, you know, she continued, picking up the shovel and jabbing it into the ground. I learned one thing in the mountains. It will be better to be the bride of a nomad king than the slave of a bandit. I am ready for the arrival of King Galden. She thought a minute and then added, I have decided you will go with me. What? Chengli jumped up and stared at her. Yes, she said, you shall go with me into my new life. I have no one left from my old life except Sundarshana and Dakshish and you, Camel Boy. You risked your life to rescue me. Come with me. You are more than my servant. You are my friend. No, she smiled. You are my elder brother. Yes, Chengli said, grinning. I will serve you faithfully. He stopped. The grin left his face. No, it is not possible, princess. A camel boy cannot be a brother to a princess, and, he hesitated, the judge has told me to return to Chang'an to commence my studies. Mei Ling stared at him in surprise. She pulled herself up taller and straighter. The sister became the princess. She glared at Chengli. Chengli leaned back against the warm body of the donkey. He shook his head as if to clear confusion. No, princess. You will have many servants in your new life. Master Fang has been good to me. He hesitated. A new thought suddenly took hold. My spirit father helped me find Mei Ling. He helped me ride like a Kazka. But the caravan master has become a real father to me. Out loud he said only, the caravan needs good workers, and I am good with the camels. I will take the caravan many months to return to Chang'an, and until we reach the imperial city again, I will work for Master Fang. The days grew warm. Men bartered, traded, and packed for their next journey. Some planned to trade their camels for horses and go west over the cloud-touching mountains. Master Fang planned to sell his loads to the continuing west, purchase new treasures from the distant western caravans, and turn back across the desert to return to Chang'an. In the midst of their work, a messenger came to announce that King Galden would arrive the following day to claim his bride. He would await them at the northern edge of the caravan field. Everyone helped Mei Ling get ready. They swept out the cart, packed her few belongings, and, when the morning dawned, dressed in her finest clothes and went out to meet the king. Chengli kept to the back and watched the little princess parade. First walked Master Fang and Uncle Dao, both dressed in their finest robes. Then came Mei Ling, riding Hogenius's horse. Behind her walked her guards and her new cook. Ahead of them, at the edge of the field, waited a line of horse riders, rough men with swords at their sides. As Master brought his little group to a halt, an old man rode forward through the protective line of guards. Oh no, thought Chengli, the king is old. Mei Ling glanced up and saw the old man. Her face drained of all its color, but she didn't move. She looks every bit the royal princess, said Chengli to himself. The man spoke. I am the messenger for our honorable King Galden, who welcomes you as his bride. He reached up, took the reins of Mei Ling's horse, and began to guide her through the tunnel of guards toward a young man sitting tall on his powerful horse. His heavenly bearded face and his clothes of felt and fur skins marked him as a nomad. Mei Ling relaxed when he saw his friendly smile, and the color returned to her cheeks. Wait! Called out Chengli, bolted forward past his master and Uncle Tao. The nomad guards swung around and raised their swords to protect their princess. Chengli dropped to the ground, smashing his forehead into the dirt. He cringed, braced for the slash of the swords against his neck. No! Lower your swords! Mei Ling's voice rang out, hard with authority. To Dakshish, she said, go and see what the camel boy wants. The old man held Mei Ling's horse and waited. Chengli picked himself up out of the dirt and slowly walked forward, facing the ground. When he reached Dakshish, he held out his broken piece of jade. Take this to the princess, he said, his voice barely a whisper. I cannot go with her into her new life. Instead, I offer her the only thing of value that is mine to give. Take my jade to her. He held out the two pieces of jade. The green color shimmered in the sunlight. The princess watched the proceeding, but did not move. He tried again. Please take it to her, and tell her when she holds it to remember her caravan boy. He held it out again. Mei Ling looked steadily at Chengli, and her eyes filled with tears. Wiping her eyes with the corner of her silk sleeve, she motioned Dakshish to her side. She leaned over and took the jade, slowly closing her fingers around the twice precious stone. Then, with a nod to Chengli, the old man turned and led Mei Ling to the waiting king. Chengli stood with a pain stabbing his stomach and watched the princess and her new family ride away. A wind, yellow with desert dust, rolled and danced around their feet. A demon wind. It rose and hid the princess from his view. A spirit wind. It stung his eyes and blew against his heart. Master Fong and Uncle Tao stood beside him, one on each side. Together they turned and walked back to the caravan.